And welcome to another edition of St. Louis 7, following an episode on OT with Oliver, wherever you get your podcast. Had a ball, don't even have to tell you who it is. That's right. See, we talked about the pail. It's there.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
It's happy hour somewhere. So before we get into it, you've done so much with the public library, with a lot of stuff in St. Louis. Talk a little bit about the library, because I don't think enough people know what's been going on and know what is happening as we speak.
Well, the mission of the library evolves, and I guess it ties in with what I said about the brewery, that it's good that St. Louis is a cradle of jazz, because that's an improvisational medium. It's not carefully scripted like a symphony, and you kind of have to adapt and improvise. And so the library, like lots of other institutions, had to figure out what to do with COVID. Now, they had already faced the challenge, you maybe go back 20 years ago, that libraries had historically been manuscripts within four walls. It hadn't really changed since Alexandria 2,000 years ago. But as you go into the digital age, if libraries are going to continue to serve their function, part of it is just as way we historically made all print material available to everyone in society, regardless of income. You have to continue that as we, as a society, move to more digital information. So this accelerated with COVID, where a lot of the libraries had to close. And so one of the, two concrete things we've done is we offer hotspots to people, because with a lot of remote learning, more affluent children can have access to Wi-Fi at home and keep up the remote learning. But I think it's close to 30% of the households in the city of St. Louis don't have Wi-Fi. And so if those children are going to get any kind of education remotely, the library needs to step in. And another area where the library has stepped forward is with voting, that people are concerned about remote voting. So some of our library branches are now alternate or voting facilities where people can vote absentee anytime without waiting till election day. So the library has adapted, and I guess I would say, since we've talked about history, the library has always been progressive. I would point out that for years, the schools in Missouri were segregated by the state constitution. But we have pictures of the library going back over 100 years, 125 years, and you see whites and African Americans together. So the library was never segregated, even though much of the rest of society is. And it's just very rewarding. And I guess I should mention that I'm on the board of the library. I'm not actually doing all these wonderful things. I get to sit on the board and take credit for what our librarians do. But it's a tremendous resource. And I guess I would say, for anyone who's watching this, visit your public library. If you're not comfortable doing it in person, you can visit virtually. That's one of the things people have said about libraries, that in the digital age, are they obsolete? And that's absolutely not the case. People can visit our collection online, and we then provide a lot of computer access for people who could not otherwise have it. So
Great.
Thank you for throwing me that softball.
Absolutely, Tom. All right, buckle up. Here we go. St. Louis 7. You went to Priory. What do you remember?
What do I remember about Priory? Well, I started in 1960 when the presidential election of Nixon and Kennedy was underway. It was a pretty historic time to be going to school, if you think of it. It started with the election of Kennedy. My sophomore year was when he was assassinated. The election of '64 was pretty contentious with Johnson and Goldwater. The Federal Civil Rights Act was passed. The Vietnam War was escalating. You were just starting to see riots in the streets. So there was a lot going on in society, and I got a much better education than I took advantage of. I said much better education was available than I took advantage of. But we, you know, had calculus and Latin and Greek and you know, pretty rigorous academic program, and I'm still figuring out years later what I actually learned. I formed some good friendships. There's a group from my class who all came together for our 50th reunion. We put a lot of effort into it. And I remember at the time saying, boy, we need to get together sometime. And then somebody died 3 months later. And that was the wake-up call. We thought, well, don't get together sometime. You know, pick a hard date and get together and say, you know, this is in the calendar, don't move it. So there are 4 of us who get together for golf a few times a year, just because there's a bond when you've known someone, well, now 60 years. It sounds sort of frightening to think that, and people say that we started Priory when Eisenhower was president, but it was no, at the time, I, of course, didn't like the discipline and thought we had to work too hard and we had to wear coats and ties, and there were all sorts of strict regulation. But in retrospect, I was fortunate to have gotten that education.
Do you have an all-time favorite concert?
I think my all-time favorite concert might be the first time I saw the Rolling Stones, which was in Baltimore in 1969. I mean, my all-time favorite concerts, plural, would probably include all the times I saw the Stones. And on that point, my least favorite concert now is the Rolling Stones concert that was supposed to be in June, for which I bought tickets, and the concert's been canceled, and Ticketmaster still won't give me a refund. But that's it. But it was in Wednesday before Thanksgiving in 1969. I went to Baltimore, and it was the start of the tour that ended up at Altamont.
Give me shelter.
Yep, Hell's Angel killed someone, and it was on that Friday night in Madison Square Garden when Tina Turner opened for them with a very memorable performance that at the end of which Mick Jagger said, "Remind me never, ever, ever to let Tina Turner open for us again." She did a version of "I've Been Loving You Too Long" that is quite remarkable if you want to find it on YouTube. So I think that might be memorable. Or when I was at Georgetown, there was a place called the Howard Theater, which was like the Apollo in New York, and there were some great acts there. And I went there several times in my first 2 years at Georgetown and saw Junior Walker, the Temptations, the Miracles, James Brown. And then that all came to a screeching halt in April of 1968 when Martin Luther King was shot. Washington erupted in riots, and the area around the Howard was in the area that was destroyed by fire. And so it all burned. And I think the Howard may have reopened now. So it was, I'd say, in retrospect, either maybe the Rolling Stones concert in 1969, or maybe the first time I saw James Brown at the Howard Theater, which was an extraordinary spectacle.
All right, so St. Louis barbecue. I got my pork steaks. I got my burgers. I got my brats. What's the Schlafly beer of choice?
I'm not terribly didactic about pairing beer with food. Again, I'd say it's just whatever you like. I mean, I have Kroos just because that's what everyone calls Kolsch. It's a good summer beer. I mean, maybe I'd almost say what type of beer. If you're having your barbecue and it's getting cold now, an oatmeal stout's a good one, or the coffee stout. Everyone has its own favorite beer. I guess if you say brats, that's sort of a German food, so maybe a Pilsner. But I'm not as orthodox as some wine drinkers are about what wine has to go with what food. So.
You're playing right field for the Pink Flamingos. What is your one shining moment?
A moment that is memorable, maybe not so shiny. Well, I once made a spectacular catch, which was good for me, but probably would have been routine for someone else. I'd say what was more memorable, that Ted McDonald, who has had a son graduate from Priory, I forget, maybe about 15 years ago. He was in right center, and he and I had a forceful collision because neither of us was looking at the other. We were racing towards the ball, and actually he caught the ball, even though I rammed into his rib cage. Now, we probably weren't going as fast as we thought we were, but what was he is probably 6'5", so considerably taller than I am, and he was extended to catch the ball, so I ran right under his arm into his rib cage, and I think he was in such discomfort that he actually had his ribs x-rayed later. So it was maybe a typical Flamingo episode in that there was mutual incompetence, but we actually had a good result at the end of it.
Good one. Go to Ted Drew's. What do you order?
Oh, I honestly don't know till I get there. So, I mean, I guess the concrete is just that's the iconic thing you're supposed to get, but I don't go there with a predetermined wish. And, now that it's getting cold, it's sort of hard to get in the mood for frozen custard. I don't have a Ted Drew's favorite.
All right. You're driving around. You encounter 10 stop signs. How many do you roll?
Oh, since this is being recorded, none. I always come to a full. I mean, I'm approaching the age where they might require a mandatory test for drivers over 70. So, no. I mean, at how many stop signs do I utter something vulgar at someone who did roll the stop sign, or failed to yield, or failed to use a turn signal, or otherwise irritated me? That probably 8 out of 10.
You got that Blues ring nearby?
Yeah.
Let's see it. This is going to be on YouTube, so they'll see this one. They didn't see it the last time.
Okay, now how do I hold on? Okay, get it. There we. Oh, it's upside down.
Yeah. No.
Here we go.
I want one. Where's mine?
Well, actually, there is a way you can buy them for replica rings from Jostens. It's the same company that makes all the high school rings.
All right, so we talk about that in the pot. And what's on the inside? It's the scores of the games?
Yeah, on the inside, it says Play Gloria, Layla. Oh, actually, here's where it says Play Gloria here. Hold on. You probably can't read that.
Oh, I see that. Yeah, good.
And then on the inside here, it's got Layla. Then it's got the scores of the 4 series in the playoffs. There's the arch on the side. There's the it has my name, Schlafly. Let's see if I can bring that up. Hold on.
Hey, this is your second call-in here, Tom. This is pretty good.
Yeah, and it says the players have their number on it, and for me it says owner. And let's see, on the other side, you could see, well, where is that? Getting the camera, it's on camera. Okay, there it's got the arch and the music. That's the notes for when the Blues go marching in.
If people want to find out more about the ring, find out more about the importance of Schlafly, both as a family and as a company, played in St. Louis. Again, the podcast is OT with Oliver. We were going to wrap up St. Louis Sevens. If you like this one, you can check out all the other ones. Just hit subscribe. The YouTube channel is OT with Oliver. Tom, 2 final questions. It's announced that you are an owner of the St. Louis Blues. Where does one go to celebrate and have dinner?
Oh, of course, at the tap room. I mean, and actually, the stories are, well, of course, tap room, or maybe Bottle Works in Maplewood or Bankside in St. Charles, wherever. But where the stories are kind of linked is that in 2012, I had sold part of the brewery to some local investors because I wanted to assure continuity. And as I say, before my wife could get to Cartier or another jewelry store, I bought a hockey team. And where there's a certain overlap is that they're both fun. I mean, beer business is fun, hockey's fun. I felt civic fulfillment because it's good for the community. Tom Stillman is just everything Stan Kroenke isn't. He's the perfect owner. I mean, he loves the game. He loves the community. He wants to win. He's not just trying to pick our pockets, and we're not just another real estate deal for him. And so it's rewarding. And, as I say, it's the same zip code, 63103. So the tap room is probably the closest way to celebrate because we're the closest to the Enterprise Center, and that's where a lot of people come before and after the games.
Last question that we ask everybody, and again, thank you so much for your time. What makes you proud to be a St. Louis?
A lot of things. I mean, I don't know where to begin or end. I'm kind of an irrational St. Louis chauvinist that I just like it because this is where I grew up. And in high school, you don't pick your friends by who has the best SAT scores. Yes, I know that San Diego has beaches and Denver has mountains, but actually now I think St. Louis has better weather than a lot of those places. We don't have fires like California. We don't have hurricanes like the Gulf. I think that what makes me proud is our attitude as Midwesterners in St. Louis in particular. There is a friendliness and civility, which we might forget in this time of COVID. And I'll give one example. In my lifetime, St. Louis has celebrated one NBA championship, one Stanley Cup, one Super Bowl, and I have to think maybe five World Series. Let's see, 64, 67, 82. Yeah, 5 World Series wins. And we've never once had a violent celebration. I remember that after one of the Boston wins, the Boston police chief said, yeah, it wasn't too bad. We only had 2 cars set on fire. Or they've had people killed with celebrations in other cities. And in St. Louis, that's just unthinkable that you'd celebrate a sports championship by burning the city. So I'd say that what makes me most proud is the civility and I think kindness that St. Louisans show, not just to each other, but to friends. I mean, our sports fans are very well behaved. I mean, I went to Game 5 of the playoff between the Cardinals and Phillies in 2011, and I had a Cardinal hat on, and there were lots of things screamed at me gratuitously that I cannot repeat on your podcast. And, in St. Louis, it doesn't happen. I think if some fans misbehave, the other fans police it. I remember before, I have some friends from Philadelphia, and before I went to that game, they were saying, oh, be careful. We've got some goofy who are nice fans, just tolerate the 1 or 2% outliers. So, I mean, to answer your question, what makes me proud is the civility we show. And I think the rest of the world is sometimes a little surprised when they come to St. Louis sporting events that it's not like a lot of other cities. We don't burn the city like Vancouver or Boston or Denver. So anyway.
I enjoyed it, man. Hope you did too.
Okay, thanks.
Stay healthy.
You too.